So today I've got Rory Smith with me for the next edition of Fund Finance Industry Conversations. Rory, it's a pleasure to have you. In 2019, you left your job of launching this amazing product, what we all know today in the market as the Pink Book, to start a recruiting firm called Brickfield. You want to tell us a little bit about that and how it's been going?
Sure, Wes. Thanks for the invitation to Fund Finance Friday. Absolutely. So in 2019, we kicked this off. We moved from the Pink Book into the recruitment space, identifying the need for the growth of the fund finance market to be able to service the talent within the space. We kicked that off by entering the market and producing the 2019 Bankers Compensation Report, which ultimately gave us a platform to understand the market and where we're heading. Brickfield itself doesn't just service the banking space, for those that don't know. We also cover the fund space, the alternative lending space, and also the legal space. So now we're into 2022. As you know, the industry is really growing, and we thought it'd be about time for the industry to get an update on that report.
Yeah, I'm sure you all have been super busy in this market. One of the cool things you've done, I mean, there are a number of cool things you've done with Brickfield, but one of them is this banker compensation report that you first released in 2019. What was the genesis of this?
The reason for it is simply the understanding of the market and what we found out from a lot of our candidates and clients that we're speaking to is there was a mismatch and misunderstanding into what was the compensation around in the banking space. We use this as a benchmark so everyone could at least understand where they were at, where their bank was at, how competitive they were, and so on and so forth. So it was really quite a market-led initiative that, of course, helped Brickfield to understand our clients and candidates better, to be able to set them on that path that they needed for growth.
And specifically, what is the report covering for those who are not familiar with it?
Yeah, absolutely. So the main focus that we have is ultimately the compensation aspect of things. What we cover is the base salary from all ranges from analysts up to managing directors, non-group heads. It covers the bonuses aspect of things and also how those are paid out as well. They're in deferred cash, all cash, stocks, so on and so forth. We also in 2019 looked at the hiring needs that the market was anticipating as well, and also the frustrations that the market was feeling in order to hire that talent from their traditional processes, their internal processes, or how they felt that they could improve those processes as well.
That's great. So this is specific to fund finance and specific to banker compensation in the market?
Correct. This report itself focuses solely on the fund finance market. So a great benchmarking tool just for the fund finance market, and is solely on the bankers within the market.
Yeah, excellent. I've had a look at it myself, and it's got some really nice data points in there. So I'm sure folks are eagerly anticipating the next edition, which I understand is rolling out very soon, the 2022 updated. What's going to be different this year? What aspects are you planning to expand?
Absolutely. So this year, what we're going to try and do is we're going to build it out to be bigger and better. The 2019 edition really just hit home the data points as you touched on. But what we're going to look to do is add more in-depth fund finance recruitment information. So we're going to give a bit more of a broader coverage of the market, not simply on the hard data points, but also market trends that we're seeing, and maybe a little bit more reporting that comes along in it as well, and comparing those notes with the 2019 edition. So then we can see where the market has moved in the last 3 years from that initial report itself. We'll also be educating and hopefully attracting outsiders into this market as well, because ultimately that is a fundamental need that we need to focus on as our business expands. We need to make sure that people outside of the fund finance market are aware of what we're doing and also can use that as a benchmarking tool for themselves in order to grow their own career. It's also going to assist HR, their hiring managers, the team leaders, and also develop the fund finance teams to ensure that they're going to stay competitive as well. So those are kind of the things that we're going to expand on. And also working from home is going to be a good question to be asked this time around, to see what everyone's policies are that are now coming into play, because 2-3 months ago, no one really had a clear idea on what they're doing. and we're seeing a sort of a return back to the office happen, and everyone's sort of implementing their own strategy for that.
Yeah, quite a bit different world we live and work in today compared to just 3 years ago. Who would have thought?
Exactly. It's done a total U-turn. Absolutely. I mean, some of the questions people are asking now is, again, what is the work from home policy? Do I have to go into the bank? Is it 2-3 days? If anyone asked that 3 years ago, I'd be surprised if they got a job.
Yeah, no, it seems to be one of the number one kind of water cooler topics when you gather around people in the industry these days. So very timely and relevant. Any other kind of specific data or trends that you plan on highlighting that you want to preview for us?
So we're going to look at the hiring demand for the next 12 months and what we're expecting the industry to do there. So that will give a good insight into, I guess, the demand and talent that will be coming up, so people can hopefully work ahead of time. Again, the work from home policies will be key, and also just adding that information where banks now, because some people have come out of this post-pandemic world, sort of been a little bit left behind if they didn't hire through the last couple of years. They're sort of coming to the market with their old compensation that they used to have, and they need to personally benchmark themselves before they enter into the market, or else it's quite a hard task for them to attract that talent that they're looking for. And also, it's not just about the compensation these days as well. It's also about the story, the upgrowth, the personal added value that these individuals could add to that institution when they do join as well. So we're going to look at, this is a market-led survey as well that we're going to be putting out. Banks are all going to be kept strictly confidential. Ultimately, it's not about ranking banks or what banks are doing. It's more about the industry as a whole. So then people can, like I said, benchmark themselves to that. But it's going to be an exciting time to see where the ones that have moved ahead over the time and the ones that have sort of still living 3 years and sort of the 3 years ago past.
Yeah, any predictions you want to make for us?
I think we're going to be heading for a 3-day in the office policy is my prediction. Is in the outcome. I could be totally wrong on that, but I think that's where we're finding the equilibrium there. Also, I think we're going to see a big jump in the compensation from the junior to mid-level, and how that has caught up massively to, let's say, the director level in today's terms, because ultimately that's where the fundamental growth has been. That's where the demand has been. But that's only going to be a matter of time until that shifts up to the director MD level, and of course that will outpace the VP place that they're at now.
Yeah, super interesting. And when you take a look at the growth in the market and the demand we have on the products all across fund finance, certainly makes sense with increasing compensation. And I think a lot of folks will be interested in looking at those trends for sure. How are you, just taking a step back for a minute, how are you, gathering this data? Where are the questions coming from? Is this an industry-led effort?
Absolutely. So we have, I guess, say, canvassed the market, I think a few weeks back, a month or so back, to let the market know that this report is coming out. And we've asked for individuals to give some of their thoughts into how we can improve the 2022 report compared to the 2019 report, what is on their mind. And we've had a lot of feedback from the market themselves. So what we've done is we've pulled all those questions together, all those responses that they're looking for, to create questions out of that to hopefully get those answers. And we've added those to the 2022 survey. So it's been industry-led. A lot of input from the industry already, just interest in regards to they want that information. It's there for their benefit in the long run. So that's how we've been playing that.
Yeah, it sounds like you're really having conversations daily, and have obviously spent a ton of hours on this. So really have a good feel for what's going on in the market. I think that's valuable insight to provide for all of us. Kind of regardless of where you sit. In terms of, is there a date on when this is going to be available?
Yeah, exactly. So we are hoping for, ultimately it depends on how busy everyone is in the fund finance market, because everyone at the moment is very busy. So to collect this data It's going to take a little bit longer than, let's just say, maybe back in 2019. But we're hoping for around summertime, maybe into the summertime is what we're aiming for this report. So that's what we're looking towards. And as you said, Wes, you're absolutely right. Here at Brickfield, especially myself, I'm speaking to the market on a daily basis from all aspects of the market, all the ecosystem there. So we get a lot of input into where we see this report heading already. But of course, bankers themselves aren't asking these questions to one another or cannot ask these questions to one another. So that's what the purpose of our report's going to be, and that's where we can some good guidance into where we're heading.
And then once the report becomes available, you said likely some point this summer. What format will it be available in? How can folks get a copy of it?
Sure, absolutely. So we're going to have it downloadable on the Brickfield website. So that's where they can get the PDF version of it. And also we'll print copies to be distributed at selected conferences or industry events where it makes sense for it to be handed out.
And this is a free report, right? There's no fee involved for obtaining a copy?
That's what we're aiming for. We're aiming for a free report, so therefore everyone can have access to it and to make it as valuable as possible for the industry.
Yeah, that's excellent. Is the report, so 3-year hiatus, obviously a lot going on in the world during that period of time, which has really kind of helped shape the direction of your report. Where do you see this going in the future? Is this going to become an annual thing, biannual?
I think this is all going to be this is going to be an industry-led aspect as well. I mean, if the industry develops so much over the next 12 months after the report's been published, let's say the upper level compensations move or everything else keeps moving or whatever that may be, then we'll produce that report. So it's depending on the demand from the market. If everything sort of stagnates and we've found our equilibrium, then maybe there's no need to put out the report because we can just say, refer to 222. There has not been much movement in the market since then. So we'll see. That's one for us to watch.
Yeah, definitely. We'll be watching that too. Who would you say the report is most valuable to?
Absolutely the bankers, but then also HR teams within the banks will use this as a great starting point to work out why or why not their hiring has been a success or not. And then also other people within the fund finance industry, people that can see trends in demand that are happening in the bank space. Sometimes it's going to be mirrored in maybe the fund side of things and the growth as well. So realistically, anyone in the space who is interested in seeing where the growth is happening and hopefully can sort of move those numbers or that information over to their own industry and sort of get the same trend or at least understand the direction it's heading.
That's great. I mean, I'm certainly interested in having a look at it when it's available, as I know many others are that are viewing this. So Rory, thank you so much for spending some time with us on Industry Conversations on Fund Finance Friday. We appreciate it, and hopefully we'll be talking with you again sometime soon.
Thank you, Wes. Absolutely a pleasure. Thanks so much.
The material and information contained in the podcast is for general informational purposes only. Any use of the audio within this podcast without the express consent of Cadwallader is prohibited. Quotes from this podcast may not be used without the express permission of the speaker.